How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Hip Drop Podcast. Lucas and I are back here to preview week 5. We are officially a quarter through the NFL season. It flies by every year. And Lucas and I have plenty to talk about today. We'll talk about some quarterback news, some potentially significant quarterback injuries. We have a quarterback change in Cleveland. Joe Flacco is out. And then we will discuss some coaches, to be exact. Let's see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 coaches whose teams are 1-3 or worse, to see if what level of the hot seat they are on. The hottest seat, mildly warm, or cool. And then we will give our predictions for week 5, and then we'll close it off by putting 4 teams out to pasture, not to spoil anything. So we will be eliminating those 4 teams, even though they're not mathematically eliminated from the postseason contention. But first of all, before we get into any of that, Lucas, how you doing today?
Doing all right. Kind of had a bounce back week with my picks in week 4. My Chiefs played very well, so that's always a good thing to keep my mood up. But I'm ready. I am ready for another great week of picks in week 5, and I'm ready to discuss a lot of negativity today because we're going to be discussing a lot of bad teams and bad coaches.
Yeah, that's kind of where we're at. Or it's that point in the season where we kind of know who's good, who's mediocre, and who just flat out just doesn't have it this year. So yeah, Lucas, like you said, the Chiefs had their best offensive performance in years on Sunday against the Ravens, against a defense that is admittedly significantly undermanned. We'll see if they can keep it up. So, and let's hear that in our week 4 recap, which we did on Monday. So before we get into that, speaking of the Ravens, so Lamar Jackson in that game left with a hamstring injury at the end of the third quarter. The score was 30-13 at the time. There was circulation yesterday that he would be out 2 to 3 weeks. The Ravens' next 2 games are home games, luckily for them, against the Houston Texans and the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams are one of the best teams in the league. The Texans have been disappointing this year, but they have a great defense, and they have maybe they get going. Who knows? So it's if you're the Ravens, and you have Cooper Rush against those teams, you're probably staring 1-5 square in the face. However, today there were legitimate reports from national reporters that Lamar Jackson could be in line to play on Sunday, as early as Sunday against the Houston Texans. So that changes the dynamic significantly. And it was kind of a weird injury, Lucas, because I did not see the play in which he got hurt. He did not look significantly injured coming off the field. I'm not going to accuse him of faking an injury, but the optics look a little strange with how they were playing, how beat up the Ravens were. I don't know if it was his decision. I don't know if it was John Harbaugh's decision. But what side are you on? Do you think Lamar Jackson will be playing on Sunday, or if not this Sunday against the Texans, at week 6 against the Rams, both games in Baltimore?
I think if you made me bet, I think he's going to miss. I think he's going to miss this game against Houston, and he's going to be back against the Rams, only because that Rams game is against a better team, but also it's going to be after the bye. So if he misses one game, it's one game, but it's really 2 weeks. And I imagine he's going to want to play. He didn't practice today, so it's not a good sign for his status for Sunday, but it's not abnormal for quarterbacks dealing with a significant injury. They just leave him out just for the first practice. And then Thursday and Friday is really going to tell us a lot more. But my vote is he's not going to play this weekend. They'll just rest him, give him a 2-week break, and then he'll play against the Rams. But I'm not a medical professional, and I'm not in that room, so who am I to speculate?
Yeah, and look, the Ravens this year are just a hospital ward. They've just been severely beat up. It kind of has the vibes of a season from hell for them without how many injuries they have. It just doesn't work out this year, similar to what the Niners dealt with last year. Really, after both years they lost the Super Bowl to the Kansas City Chiefs. But it's a Texans team that got to win against a very, 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 very bad Titans team at home last Sunday. So maybe the Ravens trot Cooper Rush out there and say, hey, score 16 points, and that might be enough to win against a Houston offense that's been bad for just about a year now. But I mean, you're not beating the Rams with Cooper Rush, and no chance. So if the Ravens want to salvage the season, and given the state of the AFC North, with the Browns being the Browns, the Bengals just having a lost season without Joe Burrow and their quarterback situation, and the Steelers being 3-1, but not exactly a juggernaut. Like the division's still there for the Ravens if they can ever get healthy. Now, Madubuike is out for the season. Who else is out for the season for them? Is anybody out for the season?
I,
Or all
I
these like kind
don't,
of short terms? I know
I don't
Madubuike
know.
is, but I
I'm just
mean,
going to Google it right
Kyle
now.
Van
Yeah.
Noy's hurt. Marlon Humphrey's hurt. Nate Wiggins is hurt. Nate Wiggins got carted off the field on Sunday. Lamar's dealing with an injury. Um, Jair Alexander's hurt. Like it's just Isaiah Likely was hurt to begin the year. Just a horrible health year for the Ravens. But if they can at least get some of those guys back, like it's maybe they can win 10 games in the division, but none of that happens without Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, say whatever you want about him. When he's healthy, you're basically guaranteed a playoff spot with him. But if he's not out there and at 100%, like it's curtains for the Ravens.
Yeah, I again, like you said, I don't think the Ravens are out of it, but their margin for error is getting very small, very fast. Oh no, I made a mistake. I messed up their time schedule. They do not have a bye between the Houston and the Rams game. I made a
Yeah, their
mistake.
bye is after the Rams
Yeah,
game. It's week
yeah,
7. Yeah, and then they
and then they're
play
home against the Bears. Yeah,
the
that
Bears, and then they
changes
play the
things
Dolphins on third.
considerably.
Okay, yeah, I get what you're saying.
That
Yeah,
changes
that
things
makes
considerably. So, yeah, because they could again. I'm going to change my answer to your previous question. When do I think Lamar returns? I think I'm still going to stick with the Rams game, but like it's 40 right now. If I had to put math on it, I'd say like 40% chance he returns against the Rams, and then 35 he returns after the bye, and then like 25 he returns against the Texans. So it's not. I'm kind of fence sitting, but again, I don't know what hamstring injuries. I still think Lamar's good enough where if he purely had to play in the pocket, he could still be good
yeah,
enough. They might take
yeah,
a
I agree.
hobbled Lamar over a healthy Cooper Rush, but
Oh yeah,
I think, but maybe this could be one of those situations where they dress him, but they don't put him in the game unless like Cooper Rush is really stinking the bed, and they like we can't go with Cooper Rush. We just got to put Lamar out there. But because we saw the Dolphins did that with Tua a couple years ago
yeah,
when he
and
had a hand injury.
The Steelers did that with Big Ben, I believe in 2015. I forget what team it was against, where they started Landry Jones, and Landry Jones played how you would expect Landry
Yeah, and
Jones to play.
The Steelers did it. I thought you were gonna say last year where they had Russ when he missed the first few weeks of the season. They had him dressed as like the third emergency quarterback or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
When he was hurt, yeah.
yeah. So look, Cooper Rush, I think is a middle of the road backup. I don't think he's a horrible backup, but I don't think he's one of the
No.
better backups. I just think he's kind of there. But like him against that Houston defense, which the Texans as a team this year, they're 1-3. They've struggled. The Texans have given up 51 points in 4 games. I mean, playing the Titans obviously helps, but I mean, they are a legitimately really good defensive unit. And I would not feel great about Cooper Rush against the team. So the Ravens, if you're the Ravens, you hope Lamar Jackson, even if he's not 100%, like Lamar Jackson without legs is better than Cooper Rush. Like the talent gap between
Yeah.
those two players is astronomical. So
Yeah, it's
we'll
not
see
even
what
close.
happens. I mean,
But I will say, sorry, one more point. The Ravens schedule really softens up after the bye.
it
Like
really does. Yeah.
they play the Bears after the bye. Even with Coop, I imagine Lamar will be back by then. So I'm gonna just imagine he is. Even with their defense, I think they could beat Chicago at home after a bye, especially if they're 1-5. John Harbaugh is going to do everything he possibly can to get that team up and running, and they'll do that against the Bears. Then they have the Dolphins on Thursday Night Football. They should hammer Miami that game.
Oh yeah.
Then they got Minnesota. That'll be tough, but it depends on if JJ McCarthy's good or not. But if whoever's starting for Minnesota is bad, that's a winnable game. Then they got Cleveland, then the Jets, then the Bengals. That takes them through Thanksgiving. Like
Oh yeah.
that's like that's what is that, 6 games? They could easily go 5-1, and they could be 6-6 heading into December, and you could make the playoffs. And then you got the stretch of the Steelers, then maybe at Cincinnati with Joe Burrow back, depending on how Cincinnati's doing, but they may shut him down. Then you got the Patriots at home. They should probably win that game with Lamar. At Green Bay, that'll be tough, and then at Pittsburgh. Like I think ideally if they can go 1-1 over this next next 2 game stretch before the bye, that'll be huge for Baltimore because the difference
Yeah.
between 1-5 and 2-4 is astronomical and gives you much better vibes heading into the bye.
Yeah, like 2-4, like it sounds bad, but it's not a death sentence. Like if you remember the
Yeah.
Rams started 2-4 last year, and they were blocking Jalen Carter away from potentially winning the whole Super Bowl. So look, the Ravens, it all depends on how on Lamar, and if he can go, and if they can get at least some of these guys on defense back to help them right the ship here. All right, let's stick in the AFC North, and a former Ravens quarterback who won their most recent Super Bowl in 2012, Joe Flacco, has been benched by the Cleveland Browns, and I think this is probably the right move. Joe Flacco has been horrible this season. He has 2 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. His passer rating is 60. I know passer rating is not the best stat in the world, but woof. So they will be starting rookie Dillon Gabriel from Oregon against the Minnesota Vikings, Lucas's hometown team in London, and that Brian Flores defense, which look made the Steelers offense look pretty good. But I mean, the gap in experience and football acumen between Aaron Rodgers and Dillon Gabriel is not small. Just leave it at that. So not a great start for situation for Dillon Gabriel to step into, but the Browns could not move forward with Joe Flacco. He was just playing at a level that he was unplayable through 4 games. And for the Browns, like, you're good enough defensively where you have to at least try an offense, because I understand they don't have a lot of talent outside of the ball. Their offensive line's not particularly good. Their receivers are not very good outside of Jerry Jeudy. Um, I liked Quinshon Judkins as a running back, but it's not a talented offense. I'll leave it there. But at least Dillon Gabriel can at least get something out of it, because he has more athleticism than Joe Flacco does. I agree with this move. Like, I just did not see the point of playing Flacco anymore. It just wasn't working. So I don't think it's great timing given the opponent. But I feel like you were wasting. Now, Dillon Gabriel might suck. I was not a fan of his in the draft, but if you're playing Joe Flacco, you're just like you have a ceiling of scoring 13 points at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking about this on Monday because I was listening to the NFL Stock Exchange podcast. They both agreed they would kind of wait to do it until after the London game, because I think having your first NFL start being on foreign soil in a stadium you've probably never been in or even like known anyone to play is kind of be a little bit stressful. But at the same time, I think they kind of had to do it because for the main purpose of the Browns have 2 rookie quarterbacks. They got to play them to determine if they're good. And it does them no good long term if they wait to start if they play Flacco until December, then they give Dillon Gabriel like 2 games and then Shador Sanders 2 games. 2 games doesn't give them enough time to evaluate. But they could play Dillon Gabriel this year for the rest of the season, and he could play really well and not get them to the playoff, maybe get them to like 7-10, and then you kind of know where you're sitting at, rather than you kind of play Flacco most of the season, you play each of the rookies 2 games, 2 or 3 games at most, and you don't really know what you have because the sample size is so small. You have nothing to go off of, and then it just leaves you that much more confused heading into a quarterback draft that's not going to have a true stud, but maybe a couple of other bona fide top 10 players. I think Dillon Gabriel is a solid player, or like solid prospect for where they got him. He wasn't a first round caliber player. He wasn't like a guy who's going to be a future MVP or anything like that, but he does have some positives. He plays a very controlled style of football. He's accurate to all levels, but he's undersized. He's not the most mobile guy. He's more mobile than Flacco, but he doesn't have the strongest arm.
We're more mobile than Joe Flacco is.
Yeah, exactly. So he's not the most like experienced guy, but I think he's accurate. He has good touch, and I think he's someone who gives them definitely more upside than Joe Flacco. And the Brian Flores defense is going to be tough because Brian Flores is a maniac in a good way. But this Vikings defense has not been good this year. Other than the Bengals game, they've been flat out horrible. And so maybe that's why Kevin Stefanski decided to do it. Like, you might as well just do it early as possible and rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah, I mean, I will push back slightly. I think they were pretty good against Atlanta. They only allowed 1 touchdown in that game. Against the Bears, they started off poorly, but they really tightened up. But they were bad against Pittsburgh. Against the Pittsburgh offense that was without Jalen Warren.
I will say, yeah.
A very
the only
limited Pittsburgh offense.
Their run defense got torched against the Falcons. They made
Kenneth Gainwell look like Barry Sanders. It was ridiculous. Rodgers,
against the Falcons, they also got torched by Bijan.
Yeah, to be fair, but they held him out of the end zone. But this Browns offense is by far the worst offense they've played. So I mean, it should be a good day for the Vikings. We'll get to our predictions there. And by the way, I do think Shador Sanders will start games at some point this year because the Browns are not winning many games, even with how good their defense has been. I think the Browns' defensive numbers are a bit inflated because teams look at the Browns and be like, if we score 16 points, we're going to win the game because they can't do anything on offense. But I think by when they're eliminated by December, I think Shador Sanders might start, but that's not today. It's the Dillon Gabriel show as of now. And as for Joe Flacco, this is probably it. Would you say,
Yeah,
Lucas? I mean,
yeah.
we'll always remember the 2012 playoff run, the Super Bowl winning quarterback, very nice career. Joe Flacco has more playoff wins than Drew Brees, Dan Marino, Kurt Warner, Steve Young. Like, not a bad career, but I mean, it's probably over. And
Yeah.
so good career, Joe Flacco. But it's Dillon Gabriel's time in Cleveland now. All right, another quarterback injury. Brock Purdy, who started week 1 against Seattle, led them to a win, missed the next 2 games against the Saints and the Cardinals, which the Niners won with Mac Jones in the lineup, and then came back against Jacksonville, did not play particularly well, had 3 turnovers, will once again be ruled out. He will not play tomorrow night against the Rams. It will be Mac Jones once again, his 3rd start of the year. And Lucas, I mean, this is kind of concerning for Brock Purdy because I understand, like, it's nobody's fault for getting hurt, but and this is a similar thing we talked about with Joe Burrow, but your best ability is availability. And
Yeah.
I don't know if they rushed him back too soon. I don't know if they're like, hey, it's a short week. We'll bring him back against, I believe they play the Bucks in week 6 in that game. So do you think this is a serious thing, or do you think they're just kind of holding him out just for one game because they know it's a short week? Even if they lose, they're still 3-2 because they gave themselves a cushion by starting 3-0. And Mac Jones, I think, has played relatively competent football for them in the 2 games he started. So, and now the Rams are a different animal than the Cardinals and the Saints, albeit. But I don't know. What do you think of this situation?
I am kind of confused on why they played him because he just looked against Jacksonville. He looked hurt in that game.
Hmm.
He did not play well, and I'm just kind of like, why did you play him when you know he had the short week coming up? Because he obviously aggravated his injury, or he came back too early. So I don't understand why they just didn't hold him out. They just didn't hold him out because he had 300 yards, but he had 2 picks. He had a fumble. He just did not look like the same guy. I would have just played Mac Jones because Mac was fine in the 2 games they played him. He wasn't like a stud,
Yeah.
but he objectively played well, especially against the Cardinals. He played very well in that game, better than the numbers indicated. But at the same time, they clearly were in a rush to play him, which was a bad decision because the Jaguars defense has been a huge problem for offenses forcing turnovers. We'll talk about that later, but I just wouldn't have played him. I don't think he's injury prone because I just don't think he's like gotten injured way too easily. I think he missed a game last year due to an injury. I think maybe he had a concussion, but the injury he suffered in the NFC Championship game a few years back, there's not much you're gonna do. Like he got lit up and I think it was
Yeah.
his hand. He had his hand on a helmet or something like that. Like there's not much you're really gonna do there. So I don't think he's injury prone, but I just think they returned weight. They had him return to action too easily. Granted, I'm not in the room, so maybe the doctor said it was okay, but maybe they were better off just giving him an extra 4 days rest and playing him against the divisional opponents rather than playing him against an AFC team.
Yeah, like I thought the timing was a bit weird, and I think they probably miscalculated a little bit. Um, but yeah, it's Mac Jones for at least another game. I anticipate Purdy probably plays week 6 moving forward. But I mean, Mac Jones has been better than Brock Purdy this year. I mean, context does matter. The
Yeah,
Seahawks, Brock Purdy played better defenses than Mac Jones, and Mac Jones got to play against the Saints, so that will boost anybody's statistics. But Mac Jones has outperformed them. I do think Brock Purdy is better, and he's their
yeah,
best
easily.
option at quarterback. But I do think Mac Jones is a slightly underrated backup, in my opinion. I think he's probably one of the 5 or 6 best backups in the league. I think he got a bad rap for that. His last year in New England was terrible, but other than that, he's been fine throughout his career as a spot starter. So I mean, him starting isn't the worst thing in the world, in my opinion. Although, I think it might be a tough situation tomorrow night because Ricky Pearsall and Jawan Jennings are also out. So he's gonna
Yeah,
be throwing to Kendrick Bourne and old friends MVS and Sky Moore and Demarcus Robinson. Like it's the former Chief Bowl
yeah, it's
tomorrow. So
insane.
Mac Jones has his work cut out for him, but we'll see how that goes. We'll determine that when we make our picks. All right, Lucas. So it's that point in the year where we kind of get an idea of teams that just aren't going anywhere this year. So there are head coaches of those teams that we will discuss whether or not they are on the hot seat. How hot is their seat? And there's 3 levels: flaming hot, mildly hot, or cool. And these coaches, all their teams are 1-3 or worse. And the one that we're going to start with is Mike McDaniel of the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins got their first win of the season last Monday night against the Jets. On the heels of a pretty hard fought game in Buffalo, a game that many, including myself, expecting them to get absolutely trounced. They were competitive. They fought. They lost because Tua threw a horrendous interception in the end. But Mike McDaniel's had his team playing better football through 2 games. They also get the Panthers on Sunday, so like maybe you're getting to 2-3, and you instill some belief in that locker room. We'll see. So Lucas, I will say Mike McDaniel's seat as of this moment is mildly hot. I still don't think he will be the coach in 2026, but I think we're at the point where like maybe they let him he's the coach for the rest of the season and he's not fired in season because look, the Jets are obviously terrible. But they got to win at home. They were competitive in Buffalo. Like I do think like they've improved since that debacle against the Colts week 1. So I'd say as of this current moment, I would say Mike McDaniel's seat is mildly hot.
Yeah, I would agree. You could argue that a lot of their like downfall has just been due to the fact that the roster's been decimated. They lost a lot of depth. Haven't drafted super duper well. They haven't drafted busts, but they just haven't replenished the talent over the past couple of years that they lost. And a couple of guys aged out, like Teron Armstead and Tyreek Hill, even before his injury. He was not playing as well as the past couple of years. But at the same time, this team was objectively a good team the first 2 years of Mike McDaniel's tenure. And there are a lot of coaches that have no track record of success. I don't see it. There's another coach in the AFC South that I don't see his name on here. I think we probably should discuss, but maybe it's just so obviously hot that there's no point discussing it.
No, he's on there. He's on the list.
Brian, I did not see Brian. I didn't see Brian Callahan on the list. Oh, you did. You sent out a follow-up text. Sorry, I'm looking up. Yeah, so I would probably say mild, but it wouldn't shock me if Stephen Ross just like loses patience and like clears house. Because if you're going to fire Mike Greer, you might as well fire the coach and just bring in a whole new regime. So I think his seat's mildly to hot, only because maybe if the GM's out, they're probably going to change over the head coach and just bring in a whole new culture.
All right, so the exercise that I'm going to do is we're going to look at their next 5 games for each of these teams. So the Dolphins this week are at Carolina. Week 6 they play the Chargers at home. Week 7 they're at Cleveland. Week 8 they're at Atlanta. And then week 9, they play Baltimore at home on a Thursday night. So that's not exactly like a terrifying schedule, Lucas. Like you could see maybe 2 or 3 wins in there. So yeah, I think Mike McDaniel's seat is cooler than it was a few weeks ago. All right, sticking in the AFC East, and this might be slightly unfair because this guy has 4 games into his coaching career, but it's been a rocky start to say the least, and that's Aaron Glenn of the New York Jets. They lose a heartbreaker week 1 against the Steelers. They get blown out by the Bills. They lose to the Bucks in the last second. It was a miracle that game was even close. It took a blocked field goal return for a touchdown for that to happen. But then they go into this game last Monday night against a bad Dolphins team. They're like, okay, this is a perfect opportunity to get your first win. And they completely crapped all over themselves. They committed 13 penalties. They had 3 turnovers. Their defense, which Aaron Glenn is a defensive-minded coach, although he does not call the defense, has been awful this year. Do you think he's not going to get fired in season? Because he's not. The only first-year coaches that have been fired in season are Urban Meyer and Nate Hackett. Aaron Glenn is not that level. But do you think this could be a scenario where this is a one-and-done type thing? So I'm going to say I think it's worth a conversation given the fact that they're 0-4. I'm going to say cool just because he's in his first year. He took over a mess. I mean, that team last year was just such a disaster. It takes longer to fix it. So I'll say cool. I still think if they go 0-17, then yeah, sure. I don't see that happening. I think they'll win maybe 3 or 4 games here. But yeah, that was a horrendous loss on Monday. I mean, that's a game that you need to win if you're a first year coach to build some legitimacy. But I'll say cool for now, given the fact he's a rookie head coach taking over a ship that was sinking and he's trying to bring it back above water.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think he's completely safe, but I think he's I think he's cool, maybe with a little bit of mild sprinkled in there, enough you could taste it, but it's not overwhelming. But you got to look at it in context. They were competitive against the Steelers, that
Yeah.
Steelers team that's 3-1. They got killed, they got crushed by the Bills, but Justin Fields was awful in that game. Like
Yeah.
when your quarterback plays that bad, there's not much you can do. With Tyrod Taylor, they were a competitive against a then 3-0 Bucks team after that game. Then they lost to Miami, and that loss to Miami was probably their worst loss of the year because you could
No, for
stomach a loss
sure.
to Buffalo. Like we're like, hey, we lost to a team that's trying to win, that could legitimately win the Super Bowl. But that Dolphins game, they were just not buttoned up. I know they lost by 6 points, but Garrett Wilson scored an amazing touchdown with like 2 minutes left to make the score respectable. And I remember Connor Rogers posted a video like complaining, basically going off, and a lot of Jets fans agreed. They just didn't pass that. They just did not pass the eye test in that game. They were sloppy, took a lot of penalties, made some really odd punting decisions at points in that game. Like I remember they had like 4th and 5 on like the Dolphins like 45-yard line, and they punted. But then the Dolphins only to get most of that yardage back on 2 run plays. And so, like, why did you end up punting if your defense was going to give up that easily? You might as well just kept your offense on the field. So it's not perfect, but this Jets team was a mess. I think he needs at least 1 year, and then if it's shaky again to start next year, then it's time to start having conversations.
Yeah, I think Glenn deserves a year. Like Robert Saleh went 4-13 his first year
Yeah,
with the Jets. I think if they win 4 games or 5 games, which is what they did last year, like I think that should be enough to save Aaron Glenn, in my opinion.
yeah,
And I'll see that happening. I see looking at their schedule, I see like about 4 wins for them. That should be enough,
yeah,
in my
maybe,
opinion.
yeah,
All right. Next up, Kevin Stefanski, a 2-time coach of the year, but the Browns are 1-3. He's an offensive coach, and their offense is putrid. They are coming off a 31-10, I believe 34-10 loss to the Lions. They head to London to take on. Actually, hold on. Going back to the Jets here, their next 5 games, they have Dallas at home this week. They play Denver in London in week 6. They play Carolina at home in week 7, at Cincinnati in week 8. Then they have a bye, and then they play Cleveland at home in week 10. So, like, there's some winnable games for the Jets. Back to the Browns here. So the Browns go 3-14 last year, but I think a lot of people blamed it on the Deshaun Watson situation. But people forget Deshaun Watson didn't play after week 7. And not that Jameis Winston is a world beater, but they were still terrible with him as well. Other than that fun snow game against the or against the Steelers, and then that random game against the Ravens, they were still losing. Um, they're
and
one
the
and
Broncos,
three.
and that
Or,
Broncos Monday night game where Jameis like threw for like 500
yeah.
yards.
That was a lot of fun. But they're 1-3. I think realistically everyone had really low expectations for the Browns this year. They did beat a Packers team that we both view as a team that can make a run at the Super Bowl. So that was a good win. But they probably should have beat the Bengals week 1, but they didn't, and results matter. I think Stefanski is a fundamentally solid coach, but I do think maybe a change of scenery is needed. I just think maybe it's kind of running its course. I'm going to say mildly hot. I don't think it's scorching hot. I don't think it's cool. But I'm going to say mildly hot because they were so bad last year. They're bad this year. I know, like everyone expected them to be bad, but if they go 3-14 again, I think you're probably like, okay, you're 6-28 over 2 years. Like, I mean, it can't be just the quarterback's fault or it can't be the organization's fault. Like at some point you have to look at the coach. I'm going to say mildly hot, but I think it's worth seeing how the rest of the season goes and how he develops Dillon Gabriel and Shador Sanders if he has to play as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna go mild as well. I think this might be another situation where Jimmy Haslam just wants to reset and like fires everyone. Like even if Stefanski's not a bad coach, and it might be a situation where Stefanski's like, I don't mind getting fired. Like I want to get paid and not have to coach here anymore. So I feel like he's just coaching out his contract. I don't know if he signed an extension the past ever since that disaster season last year. I imagine he signed an extension after the 2023 season where Flacco
Yeah.
like played relatively well and they went to the playoffs and got crushed by Houston. But I think he's mildly hot just because I think the Browns just want a hard they need a hard reset. Unless Dillon Gabriel comes out firing and Dillon Gabriel might be the answer after all, then I think things will change. But this roster's very bad on offense, and I just think it's going to end up Stefanski is going to be the fall guy, and maybe Andrew Barry and the leadership in the front office as well. So I don't think Stefanski is going to be back next year if this team goes like 3-14 again. If they could be a scrappy like 5-12, 6-11, and like one of the two young guys, one of the two rookies plays well, maybe they
Yeah.
maybe they get, and they're not picking like top 5. Maybe they're picking like 6th overall, where you're not going to get like a bona fide top quarterback. You might be like, might as well run it back another year, kind of like with the Giants and Brian Daboll this year, who we'll talk about next or in a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, at the time I disagreed with the Giants bring back Dable and Shane after the season they had last year, and you sent me like a whole dissertation about how you would have done it.
Yeah,
That was pretty. That was pretty funny. I'll actually
I
like.
think I changed your. I think I changed your mind too. I think you remember you like at least partially changed your position on that.
I actually like didn't read it but like I was like, okay, fine. Like I'll pretend to agree with
Come on,
Lucas.
bro. I thought we were friends.
If I'm being honest. All right, we'll get to Brian Daboll later, but we're gonna stick with Zach Taylor, by far the most successful coach on this list. He has been to a Super Bowl. He has been to another conference championship game, but those happened when I was an undergrad. And the Bengals missed the playoffs each of the last 2 years with 9-8 records. They're 2-2. Uh, Without Joe Burrow, they've been outscored 76-13 by two teams that I don't know if are that good in the Vikings and the Broncos. The offense just looks unimaginative. It looks anemic. They make weird coaching decisions. They commit a lot of penalties. They punt at midfield down 20-3 in the fourth quarter, which they against Denver on Monday night. Look, like Zach Taylor has had a couple really nice years in Cincinnati. Like getting to a Super Bowl matters. With that being said, I just think maybe it's time to move on because Zach Taylor to me is not a coach that elevates a team. He's a coach you can win with if you have a talented enough roster, which they did those 2 years. They clearly don't anymore. And you want a coach who can get the most out of Joe Burrow and Jamar when he's healthy at least, and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins in that offense, which I just think Zach Taylor's philosophy is like beat your man because you're better than him. Like it's just not very creative.
Yeah.
With that said, Marvin Lewis had that job for like 17 years and never won a playoff game. Zach Taylor has gone to 2 AFC championships in a Super Bowl. For that reason, I will say mildly hot. I don't think it's scorching hot, but like, I can't say it's cool because he's been there since 2019. In his 6 full seasons, they missed the playoffs 4 times. I don't see a scenario where they make the playoffs this year. They would actually be in the playoffs if the season ended today. I just don't see that happening. I know 2-2 is not a death sentence, but given the way Jake Browning has looked, he's not gonna he's not gonna elevate that team. And like a smart move would be to trade for a competent backup, like a Kirk Cousins, like a Jameis Winston. I'm trying to look around the league. Maybe bring Andy Dalton back. Who knows? That was the quarterback Zach Taylor's first year. But I mean, if you ride with Jake Browning, it gives me a lot of vibes of the 2023 Jets when Aaron Rodgers got hurt. It's like, oh, our quarterback got hurt. We're punting on the year. We're going to play Zach Wilson. Now, Jake Browning is not as bad as Zach Wilson. He played halfway competent football in 2023, but he's been horrendous through 2 games. Um, I don't know, man. I feel like he's maybe losing the locker room a little bit, but given the way Mike Brown operates, I'm going to say mild.
I'm going to actually, this is the first one we're going to disagree with significantly. I'm going to go hot.
Okay.
I think he almost got fired last year. Like maybe it wasn't as close as I'm thinking, but like I don't think he was completely safe after last season. And if this team just looks embarrassing through 3 months, I don't know how you can bring him back. I know Mike Brown is a very ignorant individual and doesn't like his mind being changed, but at the same time, this Bengals team was under more pressure than it was in the Marvin Lewis years because even though that the Marvin Lewis Bengals were competitive in the playoffs around a regular basis, like they didn't really have like super high expectations. Like
Yeah.
no one really thought, oh, this team should be in the Super Bowl. Even though those, to be fair, those Bengals teams under Marvin Lewis were more well-rounded than this current Bengals team, even though they didn't have the top-end talent of this current Bengals team, if that makes sense. If this team just continues to play like dog crap, I don't know how you can bring him back. And like, even I don't know. I know you have the Joe Burrow excuse, but it just might come to a head where like Jamar Chase is just gonna like blow a gasket. Like, and to be fair, this Mike Brown has changed some of his philosophies over the past couple of years. He the stadium was named after his dad, and then he took out a loan on the stadium to pay Joe Burrow. It's now called Paycor Stadium. Basically, sold the naming rights to the stadium named after his dad in order to pay Joe Burrow. Like, I don't know if he would have done that before because he has a quarterback like Joe Burrow, and that changes expectations. He paid Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, though T. Higgins got a bad contract. Like, I think Zach Taylor will end up being fired. I'm not sure when his contract expires. If it expires after like 2027, maybe. But I'll look it up now. But I just think you can't possibly bring him back because like it's going to lose the locker room. Because if they were competitive and they lost, then at the same time, like if they're competitive and they lost, fair enough. You can convince me like, hey, with Joe Burrow, they would have won both those games. They'd be like 3-1. But I just looked it up. His contract is set to expire after the 2026 season. So does Mike Brown want to pay him for an additional year? If you want to call yourself a respectable team, I think you got to fire him. But I would say hot, but maybe Mike Brown is the ultimate wild card. Who knows?
Yeah, and look, I it's a point where like this team has more expectations than the Marvin Lewis teams with Andy Dalton and Carson
Yeah,
Palmer. And then look, I don't
exactly.
think Zach Taylor's a particularly good coach. I know he went to a Super Bowl. Ken Wisenhunt went to a Super Bowl, man. Like that doesn't automatically mean you're a great coach. Barry Switzer won a Super Bowl, and he was a horrible coach. Any Cowboys player during that time would tell you that. So I just think it's run its course. But Mike Brown is unpredictable. All right, next up we have. Let's see. We have Brian Callahan of the Tennessee Titans. They are 0-4. In his first year there, last season, they were 3-14. They were the worst team in the NFL. And they look actually worse this year than they were last year, despite replacing Will Levis with Cam Ward. They commit a lot of penalties. He makes questionable game management decisions. He didn't know the rules of the whether something was a catch against Denver. If I'm correct on that, it's just we all saw that debacle against the Colts where they tried like a 57-yard field goal and then they tried like a 60-yard field goal. Shockingly, they missed them both. Seems like he's lost the locker room. I'm going to say scorching hot. I don't think he's there much longer, and I don't think he should be. I just think
Yeah.
I thought it was a pretty I didn't think much of the hire. Like I was kind of like, all right, sure, fine, let's see how this goes. But it's been worse than I could have anticipated. I think last year he kind of flew under the radar just because the Titans were just so nobody watched their games, if I'm being honest. But this year it's like, okay, man, like you were the worst team in football last year. We're giving you another chance with a first overall pick at quarterback, and they look worse. Like they look even worse. And I don't know. Like I'm gonna look at the Titans schedule. 2025. They play the Cardinals this week in Arizona. 2025 Tennessee Titans season. So like they play the Cardinals, they play the Raiders in Vegas, New England at home, Indianapolis, the Chargers. Like I think I'm gonna guess that Raiders game is if they lose is probably his last game. I don't think he makes it to Halloween.
Yeah, I think he's done. I think he's cooked like a Thanksgiving turkey. I think the biggest thing is Cam Ward just has not looked good, but even more indicative, like it's probably because the offensive supporting cast in Tennessee is a disaster, and Brian Callahan
Yeah.
we thought was going to be a good offensive mind because he was apparently good in Cincinnati, but he may have been a fraud the entire time. But also, a lot of the reason why he may have been hired was his dad, Bill Callahan, is widely regarded as a very, very good offensive line coach, and the offensive line's been awful. Like
Yeah.
their pass protection's been a joke. Run blocking has been bad. Like it just doesn't seem like any of the moves they made to fix their offensive line this year has really worked out. I mean, who's shocking? Dan Moore Jr. didn't work out when literally everybody
No,
on the
who could have
planet
seen
knew
that
that was going to
coming?
be a bad contract. And like at this end, like Dan Moore's been bad. Like their right tackle Olasameka Udo, I messed up that name. He's been one of the worst players in football this year, bar none. Barring like even forgetting our position. Lloyd Cushenberry's been a bad center. That signing hasn't gone well. Kevin Zeitler's an all right guard, good, like solid but nothing special. And Peter Skoronsky's the only like shining light at left guard, and even he played really poorly against the Texans. Like this is just not a well coached team. The receiver room's bad. They're poorly coached on both sides of the ball. They're not buttoned up. And to be fair, I'm going to rant a little bit. This Tennessee Titans organization is a joke. Like they had a recent change of ownership because the owner passed away about a decade ago. It seems like the owner, like who's the daughter, I think it's Amy Adams Strunk or
Yeah,
something like
that's her
that.
name. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. I apologize if I mispronounced it, but it just seems like she changes her loyalty like every couple of years because like they've changed GMs like twice, like weirdly the past like few years. Like eventually it was like, oh, John Robinson got fired, and then it was Mike Vrabel. Then it was someone else got fired. They've had like a bunch of different head coach GM combos the past couple of years with no real like culture, and it seems like every few months there's like a change of loyalty, and now it's like I don't know who the Titans president is. Like it's like a fake name. Like if I was going to come up with an alter ego, it's
No. Well,
Titans
Mike
president.
Borgonzi, who used to work for the Chiefs, is their
Yeah,
GM. Yeah.
it's like
I mean, he
Chad
was
Brinker.
obviously
Like
hired last
yeah,
offseason.
yeah, Chad Brinker. He's the president of football operations. He's supposedly in charge, but like I don't know. Maybe Mike Borgonzi like convinces the owner like, hey, I know what I'm doing. It seems like there's not a clear vision. There's not a clear leader. It's like a soap opera. Like their
A
people are
shell
changing
company.
loyal. Yeah, like are changing loyalties constantly. It's just this is just not a well-run organization. I feel bad for the owner. I think she's trying her best, but I think she needs to sell to a competent team. But I don't know if she's going to want to sell before the new stadium's ready. It's just this is a disaster of an organization. Brian Callahan's a horrible coach, even removed from the terrible front office. I think he's going to get fired, but I have no faith in this organization over the next 5 years.
Yeah, and look, that's unfortunate for Cam Ward. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't know. Like I feel like this could be a situation where they waste a young quarterback. And look, Cam Ward has not played
yep,
well, but like it's 4 games and the situation is not ideal to say
yep,
the least. All right, going out of the NFC. Uh, Brian Dable of the New York Giants, they got a much needed win against the Chargers last Sunday. And look, they're sitting pretty well because they head to the Saints, who are 0-4. So that's maybe a possibility you get to 2-3, and the outlook on the season's different. Obviously, Jackson Dart now in at quarterback. Look, the Giants were an absolute embarrassment last season. I thought Dable and Shane should have been fired. I mean, when you go 3-14 in your third year, you should probably move on. And then
yeah,
Lucas sent me like the English patient on why it was a good idea to bring them back. So I'm gonna say mild at this point, just
yeah,
because we have to see how Jackson Dart plays. And Russell Wilson, I mean, I feel like signing Russell Wilson was pretty pointless. I don't I didn't hate it at the time, but then you like through 3 games, like okay, like there's no Russell Wilson is no use on this
yeah,
team. But Jackson Dart, won his first start. He didn't play that well, but they won. You play a horrendous Saints team in week 5. And then, like, I don't see many wins for the Giants on this schedule because it's a relatively tough schedule and they're not a very good team. But if Jackson Dart plays at least like a league average quarterback and they win like 6 games, which is double their win total of last year, like I think Dable maybe comes back for 2026. Like maybe we'll see. But I'm gonna say mild for now. If they lost on Sunday to the Chargers, I would have said scorching hot, but it was a pretty much a job saving win for Brian Dable.
yeah. I'm with you. It's going to depend on how Jackson Dart looks. They could easily beat the Saints this weekend, be 2-3, and suddenly your young quarterback's 2-0. Then they got a huge Thursday night game at home against the Eagles. They don't have to win that game, but if they beat the Saints and they're at least competitive against the Eagles, where they are in the game in the fourth quarter, even if the Eagles pull away, that's going to give you momentum. Then you're in Denver playing a bad Bo Nix, playing Bo Nix, who's been terrible this year. Then you just have momentum. Again, like you said, it's going to depend on how Jackson Dart looks. If he looks competent or like kind of good, even, you got to bring Brian Daboll back because you got to keep the momentum going. But if Jackson Dart just looks awful the rest of the year, there's no chance he's coming back. Brian Daboll.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So like it depends. It depends how he looks and depends like if you can get to 5 or 6 wins, you keep building momentum and then you keep the continuity going to help rebuild the Giants. Dable made the playoffs his first year. They won a game in Minnesota. Lucas, were you at that game?
Which game?
The game
The
that
playoff
the
game?
Giants beat the 2022 wild
No,
card game. But
no,
yeah. But the
no.
last
I only go to Chiefs games unless I get free tickets.
yeah, and they've won 10 games since then. So we'll see what happens. But I mean, beating the Saints on Sunday would be a good way to build momentum. All right, last one. Dave Canales of the Carolina Panthers. They're 1-3. They just lost 42-6 to a mediocre Patriots team, coming after beating the Falcons 30-0 in a game that the Falcons might have thrown and might get investigated for gambling. So that's the only explanation there. And then they were down 27-3 in Arizona before staging a fake comeback. And then they got blown out 26-10 by the Jaguars week 1. So the Panthers last year in Canales' first year went 5-12. They were frisky at the end of the year. They played both Super Bowl participants, the Eagles and the Chiefs, tough. It took the Chiefs a last-second field goal to beat them, and then the Eagles barely beat them in their home building. So the Panthers looked like they were building some momentum. Bryce Young was playing much better at the end of last year, and then this year looks like that never even happens. Like it looks like the start of last season. Bryce Young looks like the guy he was before that late little run as Lucas lets his dog out of his room. That late running at the end of last year, Bryce Young looks like the guy before that, before the benching. Lucas is just going through it with his door. And you have to look at the coach because Dave Canales is an offensive minded coach. He calls plays for Carolina. Gosh, I'm going to say mild, but we're 2 more embarrassing losses away from this being scorching. And you're playing a bad Dolphins team at home. You got to win this game if you're Carolina, if you want any hope this year, which, not to spoil anything, Lucas and I don't think they have any hope this year.
No. Yeah, and yeah, sorry, my cousin just got home from wherever she's from work, and my dog, for some reason, decided on walking into my room right before we started recording, and she wasn't going to leave. And then right as she heard the chime, she was like, "Oh, my time to leave." But yeah, back to the topic at hand. So yeah, I think Dave Canales is. I would probably actually go scorching, but like a low level scorching where it could technically be saved, but it just looks like he's just not a good offensive mind. He's just not a good coach. I know Bryce Young like kind of figured it out, oddly enough, for that like 5-7 game stretch.
Yeah.
But like we got to look at it with context. Like I know he got hired in Tampa because he kind of saved Baker Mayfield's career, but it took the Bucs offense like a little while to figure it out.
Yeah.
And like like if you go look at it, the Bucs offense did not play that well in 2024 or 2023, which was his only season as the offensive coordinator in Tampa. Did not play that well. And like I just looked up the first 7 games of the 2023 season, Dave Canales' only tenure, they averaged like 17.3 points per game. Like,
Yeah, they weren't good.
like that's not very good. And then I'm looking at the overall numbers. They averaged, sorry, I'm doing the math on the fly. They averaged 20.5 points in 2023. But when the Bucs moved on to Liam Cohen, they skyrocketed their total to what was it? To 29.5 points per game. So like they almost a 9 point per game jump in the same amount of games from Dave Canales to Liam Cohen. The offense was much better under the previous offensive coordinator. That's more than 150 points over 17 games. Like Liam Cohen was objectively a better offensive coordinator, and the offense was objectively better under Liam Cohen. And so you can't even say Dave Canales was like this offensive savant. He had a talented Bucs team. We know Baker Mayfield's good. We know Mike Evans and Chris Godwin were good. The offensive line was pretty good. As long as you didn't like mess it up and you weren't like horrible, you were going to score a decent amount of points. But in hindsight, scoring 20.5 points with that roster at the time, not very good. He clearly has not done a good job developing Bryce Young. As we kind of know, Baker Mayfield got better after Dave Canales left. I think he's done. I kind of feel bad for the Carolina team, for the Carolina fans, but I think this is another failed tenure. They just got to keep trying. I think they might clean house, including the front office, and just restart because I think Bryce Young, they got to move on. They got to get a new quarterback next year. I don't know if they're going to be one of those teams that like gives Russell Wilson a chance and they draft a first round pick, kind of like the Giants did. But I think Dave Canales is done in Carolina unless there's a massive turnaround, kind of like last year, where like, hey, we got hope.
Yeah, kind of like last year, but like false hope can only get you so far. And I picked the Panthers to win 7 games this year. I had them like a scrappy 7-10 team. I don't see 7 wins. I don't. I truly don't.
Yeah.
Now, if they beat Miami this week, okay, fine. But like the Dolphins suck too, so it doesn't really change my opinion. All right, Lucas, that about sums it up. So watching, we had some disagreements. We both had Brian Callahan for scorching. You had Canales and Zach Taylor for scorching. My only cool seat was Aaron Glenn, and the rest were all mild. So we'll see how it all plays out. We will see how everything plays out. It's still very, very early in the season. All right, we will make our predictions for week 5. So an update on the standings. So if I'll pull up my notes, I am 46-17. My father, who will be a guest on this podcast later in the year, is 43-20. Lucas is 37-27. So Lucas, quarter way through the year, you're in last place, but
It's
there's a
embarrassing.
long way to go. All right. Prediction time. Thursday night football. Week 5 kicks off with another NFC West matchup between the Los Angeles Rams and the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers are missing a million guys. They're missing their top 2 receivers. They're missing their quarterback. They're missing George Kittle. I think it could be a long night for Mac Jones and the San Francisco team. I'm going to take the Rams at home in a pretty lopsided game, if being honest. Back across the pond, we have the Brown Vikings or hometown Vikings. I'll take the Vikings. I just think Dillon Gabriel's not going to have much success against Brian Flores, and the Vikings get a win before their bye and get it back above 500. And then the early window, we have Ravens Texans. This hinges on one thing: if Lamar, I'm going to take the Ravens. However, so against a very bad Carolina team. Luke's not just discuss the Panthers in depth. Colts Raiders. This is my upset pick of the week. I am taking the Raiders to upset the Colts in Indianapolis, stunning them. I think the Colts are going to come back down to earth a little bit here. I still think they're a solid team, but I think those first 3 weeks were a little bit unsustainable. Daniel Jones showed some cracks against the Rams. He threw 2 interceptions. He couldn't push the ball down the field. The Raiders pull off the upset of the week, winning in Indianapolis. Saints Giants. I'm actually going to go with the Giants to win their second straight game. I picked the Saints to go 0-17 before the season, and I'm sticking to my guns. And they have not won a game yet, so I'm not picking them to win a game until they do. Jets Cowboys. I will take the Cowboys. The Jets, just another lost season for them. I thought they'd be gritty. I thought they'd be competitive. I don't know, man. I see about 4 or 5 wins for this team. The Cowboys are the much better team with the obviously better quarterback. I think they're going to put up some points in this one. Eagles Broncos. I'll take the Eagles at home. I just don't trust Bo Nix going into Philadelphia and winning this game against Zach Bond and Cooper DeJean and that defense. And then the Eagles, just as they've done for the last year, to do enough to win the game and move to 5-0. Cardinals Titans. I'll take the Cardinals. I'm not picking the Titans to win a game until Brian Callahan is no longer there. The Cardinals get back on track after 2 losses at the gun. A really interesting game. Seahawks Bucks out in the Pacific Northwest. I will take the Bucks to win this game in Seattle. I think they're the better team. They had a rough one against Philadelphia, but Seattle has greatly exceeded my expectations so far. They're 3-1. But I do think they'll lose this one on their home turf. Bengals Lions. This game got flexed out of Fox's primary game because the Bengals stink so much. I'll take the Lions in a blowout. I think the Bengals are trending in the wrong direction. Chargers Commanders on America's Game of the Week. I will take the Commanders. I would assume Jaden Daniels plays. Yeah, I think they win this game in SoFi against the Chargers. The Chargers team that is coming off a pretty bad loss. 2 teams that are coming off frustrating losses, but the Commanders get the boost with Jaden Daniels back in the lineup. Bills Patriots on Sunday Night Football. I'll take the Bills at home. I think it'll be close. I think the Bills games against the Dolphins and the Saints at home were closer than anticipated. The Patriots are better than those teams, but I think Josh Allen will make enough plays for them to pull away and win this football game. And then Monday Night Football, the Chiefs, the team that we cover, at Jacksonville against a surprising 3-1 Jaguars team. I will take the Chiefs. Trevor Lawrence's performance this year has been greatly covered up by the Jaguars' record. They've created 13 turnovers in 4 games. That to me is pretty unsustainable. And the Chiefs win down in Duval. Teams that are on a bye are the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Green Bay Packers, the Chicago Bears, and the Atlanta Falcons.
Excellent. Is my turn. Okay, so here's Sorry, I don't know why I'm stuttering. Okay, sorry, I was pulling up my spread picks just to kind of get some context.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to take the Rams. I think the Niners are going to keep it close. I think the Niners are going to keep it close because I think the game plan is going to be much more controlled with a healthy Mac Jones. Still think the Rams are going to win. It might be a backdoor cover, but give me the Rams. I'm going to take the Vikings to win. I don't think Dillon Gabriel is going to beat Brian Flores. Don't think that game's particularly close. Then I'm going to take. I kind of went back and forth, but I'm just going to take the Texans. I'll take a healthy CJ Stroud over a healthy Cooper Rush. Nothing else really matters. And then Panthers Dolphins. Kind of went back and forth. I'm going to go with the Panthers to get their second win of the season. I just think maybe this is more of a seesawing situation, and the Dolphins don't have Tyreek Hill. That'll be a problem. Raiders Colts. I'm on the opposite end of you. I think the Colts are going to win. It might be getting Chernobyl watch in Indianapolis, but Ashton Genty is starting to heat up, so it wouldn't surprise me if he had a 100-yard game. Then Giants Saints. I'm going to go with the Saints to get their first win. I think the Saints have been better than their 0-4 record would indicate. I don't think they've been as rancid as we both thought they were going into the year. I think they've been somewhat respectable. So I think they're going to win. It might be that might be a sneaky fun game because it's two like kind of bad teams with like youngish quarterbacks. But then Cowboys Jets, I'm going to go with the upset. This has kind of been my downfall
Oh,
this year.
wow.
I'm picking too many upsets. I think Aaron Glenn is just going to be hungry. The Cowboys might be like riding high after that like emotional Sunday night game. Like they're kind of due for like a down, like just having a down game. Then Broncos Eagles. I'm going to take the Eagles to win, but I think Denver might just keep it close because the Eagles have played a lot of close games this year. So just give me the Eagles to win. Cardinals Titans. I'm going to take the Cardinals, but Titans to keep it competitive, like maybe within the 7.5-point spread. But Titans stink. They're not going to win this game. And then Bucks Seattle. I'm actually going to go with the Seattle Seahawks to win. It's a long flight from Tampa to Seattle. It's about as far as you can fly across the country, except you're going from
Yeah.
Miami to Seattle. That's tough. A lot of changes on the Bucks offense. They're getting some guys back. It's just going to be a little chaotic. Seattle's pretty well coached, so give me the Seahawks to win. Lions Bengals. I'm going to go with the Bengals to lose by a lot of points. And
Oh, I was going to say.
yeah, the Bengals are going to lose by a lot of points. Lions are going to. If this game is within 15 points, I will be absolutely shocked. And the only way it's within 15 points is there's like a backdoor cover, and the Bengals score like 2 touchdowns with the Lions backups in. Commanders Chargers went back and forth on this. I'm going to go with the Commanders. I just think Dan Quinn's going to put a lot of pressure on that injured offensive line for the Chargers, and I think it's going to really cause a lot of issues. So give me the Commies. And then Patriots Bills went back and forth again. I'm going to go with the Bills, but Patriots to keep it competitive. Monday Night Football. I'm going to go with the Chiefs. I'm going to write a piece for Arrowhead Addict that's going to come out Sunday about if the Chiefs can not turn the ball over. This Jaguars team isn't very good. They're very turnover dependent.
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence has been bad this year. Their wide receivers, Travis Hunter, Brian Thomas Jr., haven't been very good. Travis Etienne's unironically been the best part of the offense. If they could just not give them as many drives, that's going to be really key. I think the Chiefs can move the ball on this Jaguars defense if they can protect Mahomes and avoid fumbles and dumb interceptions. So give me the Chiefs to win and cover the 3.5 points.
All right, so just going through, we both take the Rams, we both take the Vikings. You take the Texans, I'll take the Texans if Lamar doesn't play, and if he does, I'll take the Ravens. I take the Dolphins, you took the Panthers. I took the Raiders in an upset, you took the Colts. I took the Giants, you took the Saints. I took the Cowboys. Lucas takes the Jets. That's interesting to me. That'd be pretty rough for Dallas if they lose to that team. We both take the Eagles, we both take the Cardinals. I took Tampa, you took Seattle. We both take the Lions, we both take the Commanders. We both took the Bills, and we both took the Chiefs. All right, Lucas, it's that time of the year. We are putting teams out to pasture.
Yep.
There's 4 teams that Lucas and I are eliminating. And if they play themselves back into contention, good for them. I don't see that happening at all. So we'll start now. Our first team, the Tennessee Titans, 0-4, and Cam Ward defined it as succinctly as possible. To keep it a buck right now, we're ass. Well, Cam, you are ass. That team stinks. The Tennessee Titans of 2025, no longer with us. Next team, the New Orleans Saints. They are also 0-4. They've been somewhat competitive until they tried to run the Philly special in Buffalo, which sums up Saints football ever since Drew Brees retired. The New Orleans Saints of 2025 put out to pasture. Our next team, the New York Jets, just end the season for the 15th year in a row. And our final team, a team with a victory, but we're laying them down, the Carolina Panthers. You lose 42-6. You are no longer worthy of being alive. 4 teams down, 28 teams alive. We'll be back next week. All right, Lucas, do you have any agreements or disagreements with those 4 casualties?
I would probably add the Bengals just because this team is no shot.
They have 2
like
wins.
I don't care
know.
they have
They have
2
2
wins.
wins. They're hanging on by a thread. They're barely hanging on.
Both of their non-Joe Burrow games, and they frankly should have lost the Jaguars. This team has no chance. If this team beats Detroit, I might stop watching sports because I'll just be completely floored. I know it's the NFL, but come on, give me a break. But yeah, other than that, I think I agree with the 4 teams you mentioned have no chance to do anything this season. I would have added Cincinnati,
0-4. I don't think has an 0-4 team ever made the playoffs ever.
I'll check. Has an 0-4 NFL team made the playoffs? Only one. It was the 1992 San Diego Chargers.
Interesting. That wasn't the team that went to the Super Bowl that we made fun of. That was 2 years later. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So the Tennessee Titans, the New Orleans Saints, the New York Jets, and the Carolina Panthers are put out to pasture for the 2025 season. All right, Lucas, do you have any parting thoughts before we meet again next Tuesday to recap week 5?
I do not.
All right. Thanks, Lucas. We will see you next Tuesday. Have a great day.